Buggy has done the impossible. This clown has managed to harness the powers of the world's greatest swordsman and the world's greatest sandman. He is simply unstoppable and well on his way to becoming the Pirate King. Hello and welcome to the Grand Line Review, your source for everything One Piece. My name is Liam and I like swords. I'm kind of neutral about sand, and the clowns are just, There is, of course, one exception to that, though, and make sure to give his nose a big press, as it is actually a subscribe button for the Grand Line Review, which will result in consistent injections of One Piece culture being administered directly into your YouTube feed. And every press brings Buggy one step closer to becoming the Pirate King. Maybe, I'm not gonna guarantee that. Alright, though, we have some Red Nose news now, and it is Cross Guild. And that page in the manga, it was just so glorious that I need it as a poster on my wall somewhere. But as comically suspected, Buggy has not risen to the title of Emperor based on his own lonesome prestige, and instead he's taken a bit of a credibility loan from the Bank of Mihawk. I have joked in past videos like, wouldn't it be funny if Mihawk joined Buggy? And apparently Oda said yes. Yes, it would, Liam. I'm really loving the vibe of Cross Guild though, specifically its lack of pirate focus. It's not a crew, it's a guild. So we're looking at this group as more of an enterprise, which I think is very in keeping with a manga about piracy. Because just as the golden age of piracy fell into decline in the real world, we also saw the rise of corporations as we would come to know them. So to me, this is another sign of evolution within the world. The One Piece world is gradually plodding along to a new era, with Buggy acting more as a CEO than a captain, featuring Mihawk and Crocodile as board members. Speaking of, I was so glad to see Crocodile. He's one of my favorite characters. Just full stop. And man, it's been a bit of a dry decade for Crocoboy content. So I'm thrilled that he's a prominent figure again. Essentially second or third in command of an Emperor of the Sea, which is that's pretty wow. I also imagine that he's the one who handles most of the admin for Cross Guild. Crocodile is of course a well-seasoned steak when it comes to enterprise logistics with the whole Baroque Works fiasco, and I'm 99% certain that it was probably his idea to start issuing bounties to Marines, which was brilliant by the way. As soon as Doflamingo instituted his local bounty system during Dressrosa, I had a moment of, hey, that's a really good idea actually. Why has no one done that for the Marines? Because it is such an effective way of leveling the playing field, especially figures like Big Mom and Kaido. They should have been forking out big berry to screw over the world government. Also, this video is sponsored by BLOODLINE, Heroes of Lithas, a card-based fantasy RPG where you can not only collect champions, but also craft your own legendary heirs by combining the bloodlines of orcs, lycans, demons, and even funky dragonborn, all of which is wrapped in stunning visuals evoking a traditional Western fantasy feel. But also, thanks to the unique gacha gameplay, you can customize champions by mixing combinations of dozens of traits to suit your own personal gameplay preferences. And in terms of characters, you can get the clan of Karg Dragonborn for free just by logging in, which is pretty wow, and will no doubt lead you to great wholesome glory. Plus, the Lycans are a must-try lineage for those who prefer furry but fierce champions. And did I mention that you can also choose demigods as companions? I mean, apart from just then, when I mentioned it? Because you can, which leads to an amazing hybrid heir, capable of phenomenal power. BLOODLINE Heroes of Lithas is available for both Android and iOS, plus you can use my link in the description or scan the QR code, and you'll be granted a random bloodline, plus 1 champion token, 100,000 gold, and 100 diamonds. So do that thing, but for now, it's back to you, me. I do wonder what it was that made Mihawk finally see fit to halt his Sigma male grind set and finally join a pack. There have been a couple of people who have pointed out that he might have a scar on his neck from some sort of defeat, and when reading the chapter that did pique my interest as well. But the more I look at it, the more it's clearly just Oda's trademark clavicle shading. I also really enjoyed seeing Zoro's reaction to this news. It's very rare that we see him completely befuddled, but in this situation he's just like, Thinking about it, Zoro has actually spent more time with Mihawk than he has with Luffy, so he probably knows Mihawk quite well by now. I mean, they probably haven't had sleepovers and pillow fights and spoken about their deepest, darkest secrets, but 2 years of baboon-based combat together is going to teach you a lot about a person regardless. Elsewhere though, Wano is coming to an incredibly rapid conclusion. A lot of this chapter really did serve as an epilogue to the island, you know, telling us who's doing what and who's going on to do things, like the end credits of a film. Although this did begin with Shinobu and Raizo having been comically sucked dry by Green Bull's Devil Fruit, which has actually kind of benefited Shinobu, I suppose, because she snapped right back to her more standardly beautiful incarnation. Although she doesn't agree, and neither do I, because I really like Shinobu. More specifically, I love the idea that all of the Wano ninja are just these weird, bulky, and not at all ninja-like people. And I really hope that Raizo doesn't go on to become a thin, handsome Bishonen ninja, because I loved his design so much. I don't want to see him looking all sleek and cool. I want my wacky chonk ninja. But back to Shinobu, as part of our epilogue, it looks like she will be training Tama, which was always an easy conclusion to see see happening. Her dream is to become a bewitching kunoichi, and even if Shinobu didn't receive an appearance change, she was really the only option here. Tama does look pretty undeniably cute though, but the thing I love most is that this is another seed for the next generation. Tama in this moment reminds me a ton of Luffy after Shanks left Fuchsia Village, determined to work hard and achieve his dream and one day set out to sea. Except in this case, Luffy has become the Shanks-style role model, and Tama is the young, wide-eyed Luffy. And I think this works particularly well because it really feels like Luffy has grown up. And I think a big part of that is because it has taken 25 years of real-world time to get from there to here. Spending some time with Kinemon and Tsuru was also much appreciated. Their reunion was one of my most anticipated emotional beats for the conclusion of Wano, and I wasn't, particularly thrilled that it happened off-screen, but I will forgive it, because we did get a sweet moment of Kinemon and Tsuru being all lovey-dovey about one another. It was sickening, but satisfying. And then we moved to Minktown, where Nekomamushi and Inuarashi essentially announced their retirement. Well, not retirement, but they're done leading the Mink tribe, and for two reasons. One, because they are definitely needed more on Wano right now to protect it, whereas Zoe, as a Phantom Island, is really in no danger whatsoever. And secondly, because they're kind of old. I mean, not really old, but I guess too old. And they believe that the tribe is best served by some youth. Although they may have gone a bit too far in their youth quest though. As Carrot is dubbed the new Mink in charge person, and she is a mere 15 years old. Now, to be fair, that is about twice the age of Momonosuke, who now leads Wano, so I suppose Carrot is more experienced by comparison to that other literal child. I still think it's a questionable decision though. I mean, narratively, yeah, it's very appropriate, because Carrot is the Mink that we've spent the most time with, and it makes sense for her to inherit the tribe leadership eventually, but maybe not right now. It almost seems more like Oda needed to find a role for Carrot in order to prevent her from doing the obvious thing, which is of course to keep traveling with the Straw Hats. And as much as I'm not the biggest fan of Carrot for crew member, I do think that traveling with the crew makes a bit more sense with the whole Will of Pedro thing. Because if she was going to take up his words, then she'd want to ensure that the Straw Hats achieve their goals, and thus Pedro's wish of bringing about the dawn of the world. I suppose I should note that nothing was guaranteed in this chapter. Carrot didn't accept, and I guess maybe, and this is a very off chance, but maybe it could be a reverse Vivi kind of setup, but I doubt it. I think that Oda just wants to wrap her up and get her out of the way. In Kozuki family news, Sukiyaki did reveal his identity to everyone, despite very staunchly insisting that he would never do that. I'm kind of curious as to what changed his mind, because he never had that moment of epiphany, like, oh, that's why I need to tell them. But he's also a minor enough character that I don't particularly care. The point is that this was always going to happen because he needs to teach Momo how to read, write, and make poneglyphs. And maybe read and write just full stop. The best moment by far though was when Sukiyaki suspected that the vassals knew, and they all did, except for Kinemon, who had another moment of looking cool but on the inside going, holy crap, I had no idea. I've really grown to like Kinemon, and it makes me kind of sad that we're leaving him now. Which is pretty big because when he was introduced on Punk Hazard, I had no strong feelings towards him one way or the other. All I knew is that the pervy gags and the fart gags didn't quite do it for me, and I think the first moment I properly began to enjoy Kinemon was when he impersonated Doflamingo and Dressrosa and actually managed to convince Gladius that it was real. And from there he just grew and grew and grew, and now he's a really good character. To me anyway. And hopefully to others. Although I suppose I'm a bit of a sucker for the accidental genius types, hence why I enjoy Buggy so much. Now, did somebody say Pluton? Yes, actually, like 4 people in this chapter. Frankie's reaction is something I was highly anticipating, and I think it's interesting that he was in a state of disbelief. Like, he's seen the blueprints and still can't believe that someone managed to bring Pluton into existence. And then a twist, because Luffy actually said something intelligent. He hears the name Pluton and remembers that those were the blueprints that Frankie burned, and I am legitimately shocked that Luffy was actually paying attention when that happened at Enies Lobby, because he's usually the type to be picking his nose whilst all sorts of important metaplot developments are happening. But then the most classically Luffy thing of all happens. Robin asks, hey, do you want the ultimate weapon thing? And Luffy just says, yeah, nah, I'm pretty good. Which has always been one of those things. It's hard to imagine Luffy using any weapon. And if he were to, well, he has access to 2 now, which isn't all that great for dramatic stakes and telling the whole underdog story. So it's almost as if these weapons need to fall into the wrong hands. Enter Swampy Tongue Man, who is now one of the most integral characters in the series because he has information that nobody outside of the Straw Hats does. The location of 2 ancient weapons. And of course, the first thing that he thinks is that he has to tell the very vaguely defined that person. And this is why Caribou had to be on Wano. This is why Oda went to such painful lengths to chronicle his journey from Fishman Island to Wano. Because he is going to be like a sort of swamp Judas who ruins everything for the Straw Hats. And I am all here for it. You know who isn't here though? Pretty much everyone, because we're all leaving. I love that we had at least one more scene of the rivalry between our 3 worst generation captains, with them all coinciding coincidentally deciding to leave on the same day and making sure that none of them are going in the same direction. Something a bit sad here is that we are seeing the departure of Law, because our alliance after almost exactly 10 years is officially over. We're back to rivals now, and whilst I think that Law will still be a natural ally, I'm kind of excited to experience him as a more antagonistic presence again, or at least more than he has been. And there was also the great part where Luffy and Kid pick the same direction, further emphasizing how similar they are. Maybe they'll even go on to become the Roger and the Whitebeard of this generation. And all three of them got a copy of Wano's road poneglyph, which, yeah, that's very fair. The three of them together took down the Emperor, so it makes sense that they get to share this information, which I initially thought would have been kind of useless for Kid and Law, but then a revelation. Kid has a copy of Big Mom's road poneglyph as well, which was provided by a sweet commander. In an event that can probably be best described as non-consensual, somehow Kid coerced or brute forced one of these 4 Charlotte and Charlottes into providing Big Mom's most treasured possession. And it's hard to see anyone doing it except for Snack. Mostly because Snack is the one we don't really know anything about, so he can fit into any box. Originally I was like, it has to be Snack because the rest of them are 100% aboard the Big Mom train, choo choo. And then Kid and Killer also bring up another mystery to solve, which is the person with a burn mark. I mean, a person other than Suri, that is, because she also got burned. And I'm not even going to begin to speculate about who this could be. There's too little information and too many possibilities. And I think it's one of those situations where names like Skopagaban are going to be endlessly thrown around. And I don't know, maybe exploring who it is could be a nice video idea. But right now, Oda has deliberately made sure that we know nothing about what's going on. However, it is nice to know that Kid does seem to have a genuine path forward though. Up until now, Luffy has always been the obvious frontrunner, to the point where nobody else except Blackbeard and I suppose technically Shanks stood a chance of becoming the Pirate King. But now Kid, and maybe Law, have stepped up their seriousness and they are in it to win it. This section also presented us with what I've been craving from One Piece, which is true adventure. The Worst Generation crews right now are setting out into the unknown, just following where the log pose is pointing. Right now, we don't know where we're going to end up, and that is genuinely exciting for me. But Wano isn't quite over yet because we still have to solve the issue of Yamato. The ending of this chapter gave me some great anticipatory chills, because the situation being set up for Yamato seems to be a direct parallel to Odin's journey. The Whitebeard pirates left without him, he had to chase them. Whitebeard, he did not want Odin to join, no. And so he had to complete a test. The very same thing could happen to Yamato. Right now, I don't know if Luffy particularly wants Yamato to join the crew. I mean, he's certainly never given any solid indication of how he feels one way or another. And I'm also very curious as to why the Straw Hats did not say goodbye to Kinemon or Momonosuke. It's a strange thing to do considering they approached everyone else, so this has to be purposeful, right? Maybe? Since Momonosuke is a dragon and everything, that's not much of a problem because he can fly Kinemon and himself to the sunny. And maybe actually this is all a setup for a piece of art that Oda wants to draw, with the Straw Hats leaving Wano and having Dragon Momo in the background looking all pretty and stuff. It's still odd though, and I want to know why they didn't tell them. And look, I could be eating my words in a couple of weeks' time, but right now all signs point towards Yamato either joining the crew or at least leaving with the Straw Hats. And either way, we'll have our answer soon enough. And right now you have another video, which is also about fictional pirates, so I look forward to seeing you there.